Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Expectations of an Avid Gamer. I'm your host, DEDMan Gaming, and I've really got to start making more than one of these every year. But I don't buy that many new games, so sometimes it just ends up being like this. So today, obviously, I'm talking about Elden Ring. My before part of Elden Ring is pretty much I just want it to be a good Dark Souls game. Dark Souls 4. I have seen a lot of reviews and stuff. I'm actually recording this on the day before launch. I meant to do it previously, but it just kind of slipped my mind because, like I said, I forget that I buy new games, and when I do, I want to make videos like this. But anyway, the expectation I just have is to be a good Souls game. I'm hoping that the open world is a really good implementation of it, and that all the combat systems are just tweaked to their absolute finest. This, from what I can tell on the reviews and all the pre-release stuff, it looks like they have just taken everything that they've learned from the last decade or so. I think it's been about 12 or 13 years since Demon's Souls released, and I'm just hoping that everything has culminated into this like perfect hybridization of everything that's come before. I'm looking forward to doing the exploration, the normal exploration for Souls, but instead it being a giant open world instead of, a linear section in a world. And apparently this map is like massive. There was one reviewer that said that he had played like 40 hours of it and had only roughly covered half of the map, but he was looking through like everywhere that he possibly could, so that definitely adds to it. Really, I think that just covers it. I really want this to be a good Souls game, and even if it doesn't live up to the hype, I still feel like it's going to be a very good Souls game. But from everything that I can tell, it is indeed living up to the hype, and it was one of those things that even before it came out, I had all of the faith in it because it was made by From Software. And even though Dark Souls 2 is hotly debated, I still think Dark Souls 2 was pretty good. It's not my favorite, but it's still fun to play through, even now, especially with the power stance thing, which is something that they brought into Elden Ring, which looks like it's going to be a very fun mechanic, and everything just looks fantastic. The presentation, all of the new things that they've added in, just everything looks great. And I, for one, can't wait to get to the lands in between. So I'm going to cut it off here for this section, and I will see you in a little bit for the reality. On to the expectations portion of the review. So I do want to start off with saying I absolutely love how open world Elden Ring is. I mean, I started playing on my PS4 before the PS5 came in, and I spent like 15 hours just messing around in the open world. I went from place to place. I tried to unfog as much of the map as I was able to, dodging imminent death, and just exploring and kind of seeing what things were going to look like when I get to these higher level areas, because that's the cool thing, is like you can go anywhere, and if you're stuck on some point, you can just like stop and go somewhere else and grind or go explore or something. So I just think that's really, really cool. Just off of the quick, I don't know if it's recency bias or not, I think Elden Ring is the best Souls title to date, narrowly beating out Bloodborne. And the only reason I think that it works better is because it's of the open world thing. I'm not sure how it would feel on like a linear title. I think it probably would be less than Bloodborne, but still greater than the Souls series, just with the additional lore. And like, it's one of those things that, like, I know George R.R. Martin didn't contribute like everything to the story. He just did like a kind of small outline, but like you can tell some of his influences there with mixed in with Miyazaki's Western dark fantasy that he always does. It's really interesting to see, and you can just kind of see immediately, even in the opening cutscene, that yeah, George R. R. Martin kind of helped with that. He has a style of things that just make it not obvious, but you can tell there's something there, and I just think that's kind of cool, especially if you know that beforehand. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the pros and cons list. So pros, I think I said already, the vast open world. The open world is huge. So huge it's easy to get lost in. But you know what? That's actually kind of cool. You know, you actually have a map you can pull up now that shows the overworld, and you can set down markers. It's trying to avoid it, but there's not really any other open world that I can think of that has done this. But Breath of the Wild, where you can place markers on your map, and then they shoot up as a beacon to help guide you to that spawn. You can put down like 5 of them. I just think it's really cool that you can do that, because that'll help with traversal. You can just look on your map and say, oh, this little cluster kind of looks like some buildings. Let's go see if we can loot it. And then you go and do just that. And you can clear out an encampment. You have to actually go and find your map pieces, which I think is cool. And even if you're not like really sure of the lay of the land, even once you kind of defog the area just a little bit, like if you go into the area, you'll see a little beacon or a little obelisk on your map that you can go to, and then that'll give you your next map piece. So that way, I really like that it's obvious that there's something there on the map, but until you go and look, you won't know that it's obviously something you need to go look at. So it's just kind of one of those things where like it's not too easy, but it's not like ludicrously hard either. You know, it's pretty simple. If you see that your map is like blank except for a road and only one icon, you kind of want to gravitate towards that icon to see what's going on with it. There are checkpoints now. They are called Stakes of America, I believe. If you die while you're out exploring or fighting a boss or anything like that, these Stakes of America make things so much simpler it's not like you're having to traverse halfway through the level between, checkpoint to checkpoint, and in here they're called Sites of Grace, not bonfires. But you won't have to traverse from Site of Grace to Site of Grace just to pick up your stuff. You'll end up having to go. Generally speaking, if you're in an encampment, it'll pop. There's always a Stake America outside of it, and you'll always pop up right in there. So you can, if you know that these guys are too tough for you right now, you can summon your spectral steed Torrent, which is another point in the awesome category. You can summon him and just grab your runes and dip out. Your runes are the new currency in here. And just talking about the Spectral Steed Torrent, they got horseback combat on here, and it's flippin' awesome. It is really cool being able to basically... So, like, the biggest thing that I've used Torrent for is, traversal, obviously. But, like, if there's some of those bigger bosses, like those big dragons, you can, like, kite circles around those dragons with Torrent. I'm playing a magic build, it's the easy build. But I'm playing a magic build because I saw some of the spells that were available in pre-release, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I normally would play as a Dex character, but I think I'm going to go ahead and do that because that looks so cool. And I kind of am halfway in between magic and a Dex. I actually used the OP build from Yimfa and went and got, a really overpowered sword early on, but it's the best of both worlds. It's got some cool spells attached to the sword as well as being an actual sword that you can use. But I just think that Spectral is a Torrent. He is a really, really cool idea. You summon him, you whistle for him, he just pops up right under you, and you can take off. and then you can jump off of him at any point, and he just vanishes again. He only exists as long as you are riding him, and he is a very, very wonderful tool, along with the ghostly summons you can do now, in lieu of summoning a real person or an NPC. You can do that, and again, I just think that is a neat idea that they are giving us more options for accessibility without, again, without making it too easy, because that's like half the point of playing these games is for the challenge. And then my last good pro point that I put on here, just as things that I've jotted down, is item crafting. I think it's really cool that you can do item crafting, and there's a handful of challenge Souls tubers that I am ready to see them do a crafted item only run or something. That just sounds really, really cool. There'd be a lot of farming involved, but it would be really cool to see that, you can go through and, you can go and farm these ingredients from out in the world, or through animals, and you can do things like, put some of the blood leaf. I forget what it's called right now, but you can put some blood leaf on a small animal bone, and then you've got yourself a little throwing dart that can cause bleed buildup. I just think that's really cool that you can craft that kind of stuff now. So on to my cons checklist category, whatever. And a lot of these are mostly just nitpicks. I don't really find anything wrong with the game. These are just kind of small quality of life stuff that I personally would like. They probably isn't in there for a reason, but these are just my little things on it. It would be nice if your telescope, because you can buy a telescope right away, it would be nice if you could do like in Breath of the Wild and place those beacons with the telescope instead of having to use your overhead map. I just think that would make things a little bit smoother if you can, because as it is, I don't use the telescope all that often. I thought I was going to be able to do something like that, like Breath of the Wild. You can look in your telescope and then place a beacon and then go there. But, I've used it to survey a little bit. But for the most part, it just doesn't get used because I was like, oh, well, I can't place markers with this. So this is not necessarily, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I just think you should be able to, because that would, I don't want to say make it a little bit easier. It would be a nice little quality of life thing to have. One minor thing I had whenever I played on the PS4 version, and I just want to say I'm playing on a base PS4, well, playing on a PS5 now, but I was playing on a base PS4. The frame rate and audio were stuttering pretty bad. The frame rate not as much, but the audio, as soon as I launched it, was stuttering bad. I think they fixed it since now, but it was a little bit of an issue there for a while because it kept cutting out, and it was just very grating and very annoying. Another small nitpick I have, which can be mitigated by putting a marker down on your map. I would kind of like to see a little icon next to the thing on the map, next to the little icon that says, hey, yeah, you've cleared everything out of here. You don't need to go here unless you just want to go farm. I just got off of playing Assassin's Creed Origins, and it was nice having that little checklist. Now, I'm not saying that I necessarily want them to have a checklist, but so take the Dragon Ruins, for instance. I went into like the little main tunnel thing, and I hit that booby trap chest that sent me way the hell out in the North 40. And I thought I was done. I thought that was the only thing in there until a buddy of mine, Elbethium, he posted a video that was like, hey, here's where you can get the Twin Blade. And the Twin Blade was in the Dragon Keep. I was like, oh, I thought there was only one chest in there, and it was the booby-trapped one. Had I not seen your video, I never would have known that was there. So it just would be nice to have a little confirmation that's like, yeah, you've looted everything here, but you can always just go back and fight everything again, like, any other Souls. Something else that kind of annoys me slightly is the map has preset zooms instead of being able to zoom out how you want. It's very minor, but I thought I'd just throw it in there because sometimes it's too close or too far away, and I need that middle spot that it doesn't have. I did talk about the it would be kind of nice if you could have like a little pulse like in Assassin's Creed Origins, but that's probably a quality of life thing that's going to make things like a little bit too easier, a little bit too streamlined when they're really wanting you to explore. It's something I think might be beneficial. Or, not even necessarily a pulse to show you where it is like in Origins, but just something to denote, hey, there's still stuff you can get here, try exploring some more. Something like that would be nice. I don't ever expect them to put that in, but it would be kind of cool. And the last thing I really have is just a very, very minor nitpick. The dude who did the opening cinematics, the voice actor, the narrator, whatever you want to call him, he did a fantastic job. Whatever they paid him, it was not enough. But my only slight gripe was we got, in the last 3 Souls games and Bloodborne and Sekiro, we got these really beautifully animated openings. But in Elden Ring, we get a slideshow, and I'm just like, that's kind of underwhelming right off of the bat. Because you can think about like Dark Souls 3 is like one of the coolest ones to me out of all of those. You've got your Ashen Lords rising up, and you just get to see them look kind of all menacing after they rose up out of their graves and everything. And then you've got Elden Ring, which goes through basically what I'm guessing is a hit list of beings that you're gonna have to murk out before you can beat the game. But it's just like a slideshow, so it's like, okay, I know nothing about these people really. I know some of their names. There's not a whole lot of information here. There's not a whole lot of hype going on in the beginning, and I don't know if that's just because it's open world and they ran out of budget or whatever. I just kind of think it was an underwhelming start to what I think is a really, really great game. That's probably just me. I haven't really seen anybody else complain about it. I just kind of wish we had gotten something like a good opening cinematic as opposed to that something like a slideshow. But anyway, that was my little pros and cons list of Elden Ring. Overall, the hype that I've had for the last like 6 months, the hype is justified. The hype train did not derail. Didn't pull a Cyberpunk, but I didn't think it was going to because FromSoft are really, really good about that kind of stuff. Even their B game of Dark Souls 2 is still good quality when it came out, for the most part. So I wasn't worried about the hype train, but it definitely lives up to the hype. For non-Souls players, it is still difficult as a Souls game, but there is so many things in here that can that can just make your life easier. You don't have to play it because of FOMO, because everybody's talking about it, but you also don't need to play it if you just don't like this type of game. That's fine. You just go into it with an open mind and think, you know what, it's all about pattern recognition. All about learning your moves and learning from your mistakes. And it's lived up to all the hype, and I can't wait to actually beat it. So that's going to be it for my expectations of an avid gamer on Elden Ring. Hopefully I can do another one of these that's not in a year. I at least plan on it. Bayonetta 3 and the new Lego Star Wars of the Skywalker Saga. Those are coming out. I would actually like to make videos over those because those both look so much fun. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. This has been DEDMan Gaming. Try not to die out there.